first time I heard about this was January the 4th, 21.
You know, there's a band that haven't come up with anything in their own. What they literally, I've moved on, but a lot of the foolish haven't.
Johnny Rotten, famously known as John Lydon, has never been one to hide his feelings, especially when it comes to calling out the bands he despises most. From dismissing punk pretenders to criticizing rock giants, Lydon's sharp tongue cuts through the music industry's layers of hypocrisy with brutal honesty. Today, we dive into the 4 bands he hates the most and the reasons why, revealing a deeper philosophy of authenticity and rebellion that has shaped his life.
These kind of events are a fiasco to me. This is idiots taking themselves far too serious.
Lydon's disdain for Green Day is more than just a passing comment. He sees them as a parody of punk, a commercialized, shallow imitation of what the genre once stood for. To him, Green Day are stuck in a time loop, using outdated punk aesthetics without truly contributing anything original to the scene. He calls them a coat hanger with a studded leather jacket, representing a generation that has failed to innovate, opting instead for safety and replication over risk and genuine artistry. Lydon believes that Green Day's version of punk is a diluted form of rebellion that lacks the rawness and anger necessary to challenge societal norms, making them a symbol of punk's commodification.
Rock against the rich. These are all Joe Strummer worlds, you know.
When it comes to Pink Floyd, Lydon's infamous "I Hate Pink Floyd" t-shirt was not just a fashion statement. It was a declaration of war against what he saw as the bloated, self-indulgent rock culture of the time. Pink Floyd, especially in their post-Syd Barrett era, represented the kind of stadium-filling excess that Lydon found distasteful. While he respected Barrett's experimental and eccentric spirit, he saw the band's later work as pompous and disconnected from the struggles of everyday people. The shirt was a deliberate provocation, testing whether the Sex Pistols' management understood the need to challenge the sacred cows of rock music. To Lydon, Pink Floyd's later music symbolized the stale and pretentious aspects of rock, which needed to be dismantled for punk to truly thrive.
I've moved on, but a lot of the foolish haven't, and they're still stuck there. And that explains Green Day.
Lydon's disdain also extends to the British invasion bands, like the Rolling Stones, The Who, and The Animals, whom he considers piss-poor imitators of Black American blues. He believes these bands appropriated a genre born from the pain and struggle of Black artists without understanding or respecting its origins. To him, these bands played a watered-down version of blues, stripping it of its authenticity and turning it into a product for middle-class white audiences. Lydon sees this as a form of cultural theft, where these bands gained fame and wealth by copying a style they could never truly embody. His frustration lies not just with their lack of musical depth, but with the broader system that celebrates imitation over genuine artistry and lived experience.
You know, there's a band that haven't come up with anything in their own. What they literally are is a coat hanger with a studded leather jacket.
Joe Strummer, the frontman of The Clash, is another figure who draws Lydon's ire. Strummer's image as a working-class hero did not sit well with Lydon, who saw it as a calculated act to gain credibility within the punk scene. Coming from a privileged background and attending public school, Strummer's attempts to represent the struggles of the working class seemed disingenuous to Lydon. He viewed Strummer's activism as performative, exploiting working-class issues for artistic gain without having experienced the hardships himself. For Lydon, authenticity is non-negotiable, and Strummer's perceived inauthenticity was a betrayal of the punk ethos that demanded honesty and lived experience, not just the adoption of an image for credibility. Billy Idol's participation in the Generation Sex project, alongside former Sex Pistols members Steve Jones and Paul Cook, further fueled Lydon's frustration. To him, This collaboration was nothing more than a cash grab, a clown circus that tarnished the legacy of the Sex Pistols. Lydon saw the Sex Pistols as a singular, incendiary force that captured a moment in history, something that should not be replicated or diluted by those who were not part of its original creation. Idol's involvement felt like a cheap imitation, an attempt to capitalize on the band's legacy without respecting the integrity of what the Sex Pistols represented. This collaboration deepened the already strained relationships within the band, highlighting Lydon's belief that punk's true essence should never be compromised for profit.
First time I heard about this was January the 4th, 21. Was an email from their manager saying that they wanted me to agree to the publishing rights.
Lydon's relationship with his former bandmates, particularly Steve Jones and Paul Cook, has been fraught with tension, especially following the release of the Pistol TV series based on Jones's memoir. Lydon viewed the series as a gross misrepresentation of the band's history and a cynical attempt to profit from his life and work without his consent. Despite his objections, the series moved forward, leading to a bitter legal battle that Lydon ultimately lost. This defeat only intensified his bitterness, reinforcing his belief that he was being unfairly exploited by those he once shared a stage with. The dispute over the Pistol series highlights Lydon's commitment to protecting the authenticity of the Sex Pistols' legacy, even when it pits him against his former bandmates. Accusations of his former bandmates attempting to profit from the death of Queen Elizabeth II by leveraging the Sex Pistols' iconic anti-monarchy anthem "God Save the Queen" further fueled Lydon's frustrations. He saw this as opportunistic and disrespectful, not just to him, but to the rebellious spirit that the song represented. For Lydon, the Sex Pistols' music was a powerful statement against the establishment and any attempt to commodify it for profit, especially during a sensitive moment like the Queen's death, was a betrayal of what the band stood for. This incident further cemented his belief that many within the industry were willing to exploit cultural moments for personal gain, disregarding the original intent behind the music. The public feud with Irish rap group Kneecap is another example of Lydon's unwavering stance on authenticity. When Kneecap compared themselves to the Sex Pistols, Lydon was quick to dismiss them as opportunists jumping on the punk bandwagon without understanding its true spirit. He saw their use of the punk image as a marketing tactic, rather than a genuine commitment to rebellion and anti-establishment values. Lydon's criticism of Kneecap was not just about their music, but about what he saw as a distortion of the punk ethos, using it to push a political agenda that he felt was inconsistent with the universal rebellion that punk represented. For Lydon, punk was about challenging systems of power, not promoting nationalist sentiments, and any deviation from this core principle was unacceptable. Lydon's disdain for modern technological advancements in music, particularly the use of auto-tune and backing tracks, further illustrates his commitment to authenticity. He believes that live music should be raw, imperfect, and a true reflection of an artist's abilities. The use of auto-tune and backing tracks, in his view, is a form of dishonesty, cheating both the artist and the audience. Lydon sees these technological tools as enablers of mediocrity, allowing artists to present a flawless facade while lacking the skill to perform genuinely. For him, the beauty of live music lies in its imperfections, its ability to capture the raw energy and vulnerability of the artist, something that technology can never replicate. This philosophy of authenticity is the thread that connects all of Lydon's criticisms, whether it's his disdain for Green Day's commercial punk, Pink Floyd's stadium excesses, the British invasion's cultural appropriation, Joe Strummer's perceived inauthenticity, or modern music's reliance on technology. Lydon's stance remains consistent. He values honesty, rawness, and a genuine connection to the struggles of the working class, rejecting anything that feels fabricated or opportunistic. In the end, John Lydon's fierce criticisms are not merely about personal dislike. They are rooted in a deep commitment to preserving the spirit of rebellion and authenticity in music. His confrontations with bands and artists he deems inauthentic are battles to protect a culture he believes is constantly under threat from commodification and superficiality. Lydon's voice, whether you agree with him or not, serves as a reminder that music is not just about sound, but about truth, integrity, and the courage to challenge the status quo without compromise.